Bronwen Greg Dierksen, married couple. We live in Boston, Massachusetts, in the United States. We have one daughter named Gwen. She's going to turn 6 the last day of this year, which is pretty crazy. So I'm a swimmer by background. I grew up swimming competitively, went to Boston University to swim, and that's where I met Greg.
Yep. I also am a swimmer. Started at a pretty young age, focused on distance freestyle and a little bit of butterfly. And I also went to Boston University, and we met on the swim team.
Mm-hmm. Lane one.
That's right, lane one. So we swam together in the distance group. And then after we both graduated, we were kind of looking for some sort of athletic adventure, I guess. And we did triathlon for quite a while, and that was fun. Still enjoy that, ride the bike every now and again. But I think around about 2016 or 17, we started hearing about Swimrun and saw some pictures from the World Series. We're like, wow, we should really try and do that.
Plus, I really don't like riding a bike. He's good at riding a bike, but I preferred swimming and running. So yes, we decided that was what we were going to go for. They had a race in the United States in Casco Bay in Maine. So we did that one first, kind of fell in love with the format. And then I think it was when we went to the World Championship in 2018 that we really fell in love with kind of the feeling of the sport.
Yeah, that was an amazing adventure. It was so much different than, so much more wild than anything we had done before. But that was really exciting. And so at this point, we basically only do swim run. I think there haven't been that many races, in the past couple of years. We'll probably do a triathlon again, but we're mostly swim run,
Yep.
All swim run focused at this point.
Yep. We did our first race in, I think, August of 2016, and then that was the only race in the United States. We definitely were really more into triathlon at that point. But I think having a very young child, it just became easier to not ride a bike. So we were always kind of looking for things that we could do and do together. So we did the second one in 2017. And then after that, we just started looking for more races all around the globe.
Yeah, and I think that was also when our training began to focus much more on swim run specifically. So more, we used to only run on the roads. For instance, we shifted to more trail running. We go up to Walden Pond in Boston a lot to do training, to do many multi-hour blocks of swim running around Walden Pond. And so I think that's really helped our performance is really focusing on the swim run specific aspect of things, trail running and swimming in open water. Over the summer at this point, we almost exclusively swim in open water instead of pools. I think really, you had to boil it down to one thing. It's getting bitten by the swim run bug and just wanting to do it more and more.
Yeah, part of it is that, when we were training for triathlon, we weren't really focusing on swimming because it didn't matter. You could swim like a 5K a week and still come out of the water first. But now I think we've gone back to really kind of falling in love with both pool swimming, open water swimming, swimming together. We had a raft to pull our daughter in the summer, which was kind of fun. Just getting back into that has been, I think, really helpful to our swim run training and just the sport overall.
Yeah.
And then trail running. So trail running, as Greg mentioned, is not something that, number one, I'm not very good at it, but I have gotten better. And so that's kind of a big area of focus over the past 2 years, I would say, is getting onto lots of different trails, rocky trails, slippery trails, whatever it is, and kind of focusing on that. It is a little bit more of a dream. So there really aren't any trails right in the city. But that being said, you only have to go maybe 10 miles away from the city to get into like the Blue Hills, which are some very technical trails. Or then, as Greg mentioned, out to Walden Pond, which has number one, this wonderful swimming hole that's completely surrounded by a lot of trails. It's not super technical, but a lot of good trails to use. But then there's also the Boston Harbor Islands.
Yep, so we did the Boston Harbor Island swim run put on by Odyssey a few years back, and that was awesome. That was a very swim heavy race, so we enjoyed that a lot. So I think you're right. Boston is like Stockholm in that there is a lot of water available. I think unfortunately we don't have the same guess,
culture
with water that maybe Sweden does. It's a little bit harder to find bodies of water where you're allowed to swim in. A lot of the open bodies, like freshwater lakes, are reservoirs or drinking water, so they don't let people swim in them. But if you do a little bit of research and spend enough time, wander into enough areas without getting yelled at, you start to find good places to train. So we've got a few areas at this point that we know that we go back to over and over again.
And Greg's only gotten yelled at by one park ranger that we know of.
Yep.
So I think the race directors are doing a really good job of, that we have right now in the United States, are doing a really good job of finding good and interesting races and a mix of races. So swim heavy races, some that are very run and trail heavy, and some that are really good for beginners, which I think is a good thing to have. You definitely want the really technical, tough ones, but you also want something that's accessible for people to come in. So I think that's part of it. I do kind of want to make sure that it's expanding in the right way. One of the things we were really concerned about when they were bringing Catalina to the United States is that they would be kind of hemmed in by some of these US regulations, and they would cancel swims, or if there was the slightest bit of inclement weather or seaweed, for instance, that they would kind of shut that down. So I was super happy to see that it was windy, it was tough, and they kept it going. And so that's what I want to see in the United States, is that we're still keeping these races, we're keeping the swimming, we're keeping things hard.
Yeah, and I think so far that's definitely been the case. Lars and the Ödyssey crew definitely seek out unique places to have the races. Difficult terrain. Herbert Crable's Swimrun North Carolina has got some incredibly tough climbs to it. So I think looking forward, I hope that difficulty remains. I think there's an appetite for swimrun in the US. Ödyssey's races continue to sell out and get good turnout. So does North Carolina and Lake James. So I think there's, and Brecka is moving into not the US, but in North America. I believe they're going to have a race in Canada next year. So, I'm optimistic, but I think it's going to need to be slow, controlled growth. I think, too many races will saturate the market quickly, because it's just not as well known or as popular in Europe. So, as in Europe, yeah. So I think there's potential there, and I'm excited to see where it goes. We also select races we know we'll do well at, right?
Well, I think that's a little unfair to us, because we do go out of it. I think we made a point of doing things like Orcas Island, which is not to our strength, actually. It's a lot of climbing. We're good at climbing, we're not good at downhill, and not a lot of swimming. So yeah, I would say we looked for races that were different terrain for us.
Yeah, we mixed it up a little bit, that's right. Lake James is not a ton of swimming either, although it's closer to the sort of 20%-ish level. But I think we did a good job of picking races that I think we understanding the terrain and the course, and sort of adjusting our training to fit it. Headed into Orcas, which was a lot of trail running and a lot of hills, we went out and found hills around us to run up and down, back and forth. Yeah. To really make sure we were prepared for the specific race. So I think that was a key, preparing for the specific race. We did something similar with Malta, where we were doing long Saturday swims in order to be ready for a lot of hard swimming, and I think that was good. It was a choppy day on the water, so that was helpful.
I mean, honestly, we've also kind of figured out the right length of the tether. I think that helps a lot, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly. Some of the races we had done, specifically Silly, which was very swim heavy, it was too short. I was banging into Greg's feet the whole time.
In
2019.
Yeah.
So we've definitely figured that out. A lot of it is knowing how to work with your partner, and hopefully we figure that out.
I think so. Just racing more, right?
Yeah.
I think we've gotten better at transitions and talking with each other, and sort of knowing how to feed off of the one who's feeling good when somebody's not feeling so well. So, yeah, practice racing makes faster racing.
We just finished our little 3-week break from any sort of serious training after Malta. So we'll start gearing up slowly. And then first goal in mind for 2022 is going to be Catalina. So yep, we kind of start working on the hills again for that one. But yeah, really looking forward to having a little break from winter. Boston good stuff.
Yeah, it's cold in Boston. So it's hard to swim outside, for instance. So we Catalina will be the first big one, and then after that, we love Casco. It's our, we're not from Portland, Maine, but it's our sort of hometown race, or as close as it gets to it. So we're really looking forward to that one. We love, swimming in the bay and the islands. So that's always a major race for us. And then we expect to do the World Championships next year. We qualified at Malta and said we'd do it. There's a little bit of a question around our daughter's school schedule and how we're going to manage that. But if we do, I hope that will become sort of the main focus after Catalina. We'll be getting ready for the World Championships and hopefully, bettering our time and our place from the last time we did it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Learning how to run on rocks.
That's right. The rocks are what trip us up every
kryptonite.
time.
Literally trip us up.
Yeah.